Okay, I'm going to give you a not so brief introduction to the research proposal seminar course. And the first thing I want to establish is that this course is for students who are intending to do a two-course project or a four-course thesis. And those particular, so if you're doing a project, you would do the first part of your project in one semester and then the next part of your project in the next semester. And if you're doing a four-course thesis, you would take 4 semesters to complete the thesis because it's pretty complicated. So this is for students that have a pretty good idea that they want to do a research project, which is a literature review, an extensive literature review, or they want to do a thesis where they will collect data, and that will take 4 courses. Now, this means that if you have completed uh, more than 8 courses, this isn't the right course for you. Uh, and so you probably don't want to do that. And the same thing if you've completed 7 courses, if you're trying to enter a thesis at that point, you still have 4 courses, so you'll actually have to do 11 courses for the degree. You probably don't want to do that. The other thing that you would like to have is a supervisor, because that's kind of important. If you don't have a supervisor, you can't complete a project and you can't complete a thesis. So you may be coming into the course with a supervisor or some intention of finding a supervisor, but you need to look around and figure that out. I say this because this is a pretty serious course in terms of workload and focusing on developing a proposal to actually complete a project or a thesis. Okay, so all that's over. This course occurs on Wednesday at 6:10 p.m. There's a course website, and I really only use the course website. I don't use Canvas. You can go to Canvas to get to the course website, but I try not to use both because it gets confusing. And the reason I use a website is that website will be available to you in a year or 2 years or 3 years, and it will not be available to you if I just use Canvas. Here's the Zoom link to get into the course right here. All right. And then you can see the course description and look at the learning objectives. In terms of course design, you can count on at least 2 hours, but somewhere between 2 and 3 hours every week. I will be giving you a set of home activities or that you need to complete before the next class because the next class will depend on the discussion of those home activities and you completing your thesis proposal. So it's really, really important that you do those home activities. Attendance is absolutely critical. And so that if you miss a class, that's got to be a really rare exception. And then we need to figure out how you make up for that 3 hours of class and to catch up because this is a course you don't want to fall behind in. Here are the weekly topics, and we will progress pretty quickly through these. I'll be looking at the overview of resources that you'll be using, a lot of Gen AI resources, which I think will be particularly helpful, finding research problems and questions, looking at your literature review and the process, organizing your research, um, getting an idea of your theoretical and conceptual frameworks for what you want to do in typical education frameworks, research design. We'll look at quantitative and qualitative data, so you should have some idea about that. And then we'll look at ethics, because if we're collecting data, we have to figure out ethics. And then we'll be doing some presentations and planning ahead. In terms of assessment, and that'll give you an idea of really where we're focusing in the course, you'll have a community contributions part, and all the detailed description is all in these links here. So your contributions are critical to the course. So I just want to make sure that that's important. That's why it's important for you to be in class. The home activities really are actually just feeding into your final proposal, so they're a way of keeping you on track. But as you can see at 40%, they're pretty important for you to get them done at the beginning of each class. Then you'll complete a final project or thesis proposal, and you'll see the details there. The project proposal is slightly different than the thesis proposal because the project proposal is a literature review. The thesis proposal is also involves collecting data. And then you'll do a final presentation to get feedback from your peers. And so that's pretty important at the end of the course. There are quite a few resources here. There are custom chatbots, Scope to help you with literature reviews, Theo to help you with actually writing a thesis, SwordWriter to actually help you develop the quality of your writing, and Scholar AI to help you with finding journals and such. But there are a lot of tools that do that. And then you'll see quite a few guides here that will help you. And there's podcasts, readings that I think are good for references, some that you want to take a look at in more detail. And you'll understand that more when we get into the course. There's some very useful websites with writing a thesis and a project. They're a bit dated, but they're actually really, I think, are quite helpful. There's the Purdue Guide to doing APA 7 formatting for your references. There's quite a list of tools here that I think will be very helpful for you and help save you time. There's tools to help you create presentations quickly. And then there's nice video playlists for the course and for developing a literature review method section and all those sorts of good things. So that's it's a 7-minute introduction to the course. You can double play this on double speed if you wish. But I just want to give you an idea of what you're getting into.